Hi everybody, and welcome to week 2. I hope that you enjoyed working through week 1 and kind of getting to know the angel site, and that you have a really good feel for what we're doing now. What you see for this week 2, is much more of a typical week. You'll notice that there is a quiz, a discussion, and an activity. The quiz opened this morning at 12 a.m. and is open until tomorrow, Tuesday at 12 p.m., so noon tomorrow. If you have any problems with the quiz, let me know. I know one person was having problems accessing the quiz, but you need to let me know of that in advance of the closing time so that I can work with you to get through it. Other people I see have been posting fine, so give it a try sooner rather than later so that you can see if you can get through it. It's 10 multiple choice questions that tie directly to the reading, which is from your textbook this week. So it really, a good rule of thumb when taking the quiz is if it seems like there's more than one right answer, really think about what the book says. So really think of it as according to the reading, and then choose the best option based on that. So that's my best advice for the quiz. It's, like I said, 10 multiple choice questions, so it shouldn't take you too long, especially if you have done the reading in advance. So you could do that first, and well, do the reading first, take the quiz, and then go through the lesson. This week in particular, so you'll notice as we go along, some weeks the lesson is just an expansion on the reading. Some weeks the reading and the quiz really, the reading and the lesson talk about complementary but different topics. And this is one of those weeks where the reading and the lesson are complementary, but whereas the reading talks about the old versus the new PR. So what was it like to practice PR maybe 10 or 15 years ago versus now? What's the public relations landscape? The lesson really talks about what PR is. So I go into a good amount of detail about what corporate public relations is, what nonprofit public relations is, and what government public relations is, and then I kind of unpack some of the terminology that we use to quote-unquote do PR. So marketing versus advertising versus public relations, how graphic design fits in, promotion, publicity, all of those terms I really dig into in our lesson and talk about what the similarities and differences are, as well as what the tasks that are involved in each of those types of activities are. So it's really a useful lesson in getting to know what practicing public relations looks like today. And so to that end, your discussion talks about the difference, what you think is the biggest difference between the old and new PR. And again, you should be leaning heavily on your reading and or the lesson to do this, and include a direct quote either from the reading or the lesson to support what you're saying. And the activity is somewhat time consuming this week, so I would recommend at least checking it out in advance and kind of planning how you're going to fit it into your week. This is one of those activities where you can work alone or with one other person, and it's called the State of the Field exercise, and it asks you to research, I think I ask you to research 4 public relations firms, give some details about them, and then make some general statements about the field. So what are some norms? What are some patterns in the field today? So there's a lot more detailed direction on the Angel site, but that's the gist of it. And then I ask you to make a PowerPoint presentation out of that, narrate it, and send it to me. So if you have any questions on the technical end of how to do any of that, please let me know. So that's what's coming up for this week. One tip that I have for succeeding in the online course, so I'll kind of throw them out to you as I come up with them, is taking notes. So even though you do the reading and then I give a lesson where I narrate the PowerPoint slides as if we were in person, I think it's very useful for you either if you print out the PowerPoints and then have the notes section and take notes, or take notes separately in a notebook as you would if this were a face-to-face class. Because even though you're listening to the PowerPoint and you can access the PowerPoint at any time, it's helpful to have that other set of notes when you're studying for the assignments, especially the larger ones. So I think that would be very helpful to you in terms of succeeding in the course. Speaking of succeeding in the course, probably some of you have noticed that I've already gone back and started to grade the work that you did last week. So I tried to respond to each of you directly in the personal introduction discussion. I believe I got everybody, and I really enjoyed getting to know each of you. Although it's in a very somewhat limited capacity, I really enjoyed getting to hear where you are in your studies and something that is interesting about each of you. I also really enjoyed clicking on everybody's picture because it really helps to put a face to the name and post. So now if I see you on campus, I know what you look like, or just as I read your work going forward, it gives me a visualization of whose work I'm reading, and it just makes me feel like we're getting to know each other a little better in that way. So if you didn't already post a picture, you will actually lose points on that discussion, so please go back and post it so that you get full credit for that discussion. To that end, for the PR discussion, so the content related discussion, I did the grading a little bit differently this week to kind of get you guys used to what it is to post for a discussion. So the maximum points you can get for a discussion is 10. If you did the post and you did it on time, you got a 10 out of 10. And then in the comments section, in the feedback, I gave you feedback, oh, it should have been longer, or this was a great job, or, be sure you directly quote the reading, which is a requirement for the discussions. Or the lesson. You could do the reading or the lesson for the discussions. And then I told you what your post would have been if I was assigning you a real grade. So to kind of just get you, again, used to doing the discussions, everybody who did the post and did it on time got a 10 out of 10. But then in the feedback, I'll tell you what you would have gotten if I were grading it according to the normal criteria. And then next week, I'm going to pick up with the normal criteria for the discussion grading. If you're looking for the feedback, I, as an administrator, have a different view of Angel than you do. So I see something different when I log in. So I have a place where I put the comments. I believe you can either find the comments in the discussion, but not as a reply, as something like under comments, or if you go to the reports tab and run a report for any particular Dropbox activity or discussion, you'll see the feedback that I give. Finally, in the grade book, you should also be able to, for each assignment or discussion, see the comments and grade that I assign. So I encourage you strongly to go and look at the feedback I gave you and build on that feedback going forward. Also, in case you are kind of feeling a little bit lost even after my feedback on how to do the discussion posts, there is a discussion forum, grading, and related issues kind of rubric right under the lessons tab. I think it's the second item down right underneath required downloads, and that really goes into detail with what I'm looking for in the discussion posts. So all of that should really help you moving forward in terms of knowing how to be point on for the discussions. I will always give you feedback every week. I will try to get it back to you by the middle of the following week. So whether it's activities or discussions, look for that feedback and grade for me by the middle of the week. Going back to the discussion for last week, if you did it on time, you got a 10. If you did it but you did it late, you get a 5. Normally, if you don't have your first post in by Wednesday at midnight, you get a 0. But again, because everyone was getting used to the deadlines and doing the work, this week you would get half credit for it plus feedback. And if you didn't do it, then of course you do get a 0. But I don't really think anybody skipped it, so I think that's great. And I think that's it for this week. So if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out to me. My office hours, again, are Mondays from 12 to 1 and Thursdays from 1 to 2. And you can always, we can set up an appointment to Skype or set up another appointment to meet on campus. Just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to get back to you. So I hope that everybody is enjoying the course and having a great week. Take care.